It is a make or break week for the Georgia Bulldogs as they get ready to face the Tennessee Volunteers. They either stay in the playoff race or be booted out. Edge rusher Mykel Williams needs to make a statement versus the Volunteers offense to help his 2025 NFL draft stock. We'll discuss this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. And you know, I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. You talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champion, man, and the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. And I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. On today's show, yes, it is a Friday. It is our classic show. So we're talking about a college football week 12 preview in regards to the 2025 NFL draft prospects. So we got our classic segments. We got Make a Statement. We have second tier prospects. We have sleepers coming up. DP, let's kick this thing off, man. I'm ready to rock and roll. I am locked and loaded for this podcast. About to get a whole new version of Coach K. Let's get it.
You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Keith, when I think about making a statement, I go to one of the biggest games this weekend, and that is the Tennessee-Georgia matchup. Georgia coming up off the loss to Ole Miss last week. A loss that we kind of called in the sense of like, man, Ole Miss, if you're going to win this, if you were going to beat Georgia anytime, this is the year to do it, right? And now Georgia, it's a night game, 7:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff, and Georgia is at home, and I believe they are a 10-point favorite right now over Tennessee. I know that Nico Iamaleava got a little banged up last week, so I'm not sure if he's going to be completely healthy, but the guy to me that needs to make a statement and to be a statement player, Keith, is Mykel. It's Mykel Williams. Mykel Williams needs to make a statement, Keith. On the season, Mykel has, and we know he missed after he got hurt in the Clemson game. He missed like 4 or 5 weeks after that with a high ankle sprain, right? So, and we know that can linger, but he's got 2 sacks on the season, 3 QB hits, 5 hurries. The alarming part for me isn't the sacks and everything like that. It's okay. Yeah, you may not have all the sacks, but are you getting the pressure? Are you consistently getting in the backfield? Keith, his pass rush win rate is less than 10%. He's at 9.5. On true drop back sets, his pass rush win rate drops from 9.5 to 7.9. So you're talking about a guy who is not winning consistently. His best game was the Texas game? I think we would probably agree with, right? That was the Texas game. And some of that, truthfully, yeah, because that was a game he had 2 sacks, a QB hit, a hurry, a forced fumble. That was the guy that looked like, in that game, he looked like a top 10 pick, right? If you're a scout for a team and you say, hey, your coach, your GM said, what game would show us the ceiling for Mykel Williams? The Texas game. He was super disruptive. He won in multiple ways. Long arming, power, speed to power conversion, bend around it. He did everything, right, in that game. But that is the anomaly of the season because he hasn't done it the rest of the games this year. Against Ole Miss, where you had Jackson Dart, who got hurt early, he was not 100%. Now, he still ran 8 carries for 50 yards, but still, that was more of a tough, gritty performance than a healthy Jackson Dart. That's the game that you need to get back there and be a disruptive force. Keith, I don't know if you know, but he basically Tony Snelled that thing. He was 0 for 0 across the board. And I was like, they got Mykel Williams out here just getting cardio. So in this game, if Nico Iamaleava is healthy, good to go, it's a twofold thing for Mykel. Stop the run. You got to, against this offense, You don't have a choice. Dylan Sampson is one of the best running backs in the country. This is a home run hitter who has a good frame. He runs hard. He runs physical. But if you don't contain him and he passes the second level, a lot of times it's a house call. So you got to make sure that you keep him boxed in. Mykel, that's going to be the first priority. Stop the run, set the edge, put Nico Iamaleava or whoever's playing that quarterback, if he's not good to go, put whoever's back there in chaos. Like, make them uncomfortable and get back there. Make your presence felt on those third and longs, those third and eights, third and sevens. Because if not, like, your stock is going to continue to fall in the 2025 NFL draft.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I like that call out, DP. Just with him, right, and what basically what is he going to do, right? At the end of the day, like, how are you going to perform? How are you going to show up? What is the consistency? And just him making plays, and that's something that we talked about him when we talked about heading into this season, right? Like, hey, it could be a top end of the first rounder, but could be a back end of the first rounder, right? Depending on how things went. DP, you'll make a statement. Introduction, right? You talking about your player and everything. You kind of led into mine, right? I was going with Tennessee running back Dylan Sampson. That's who I'm going with. DP, we are far off of the days, right? Remember when the best running back in the SEC used to be a first rounder, right? Like, when it was like Mark Ingram and Trent Richardson, and then, Eddie Lacy was heavily talked about.
That's before they started hating running backs, Keith.
Yeah, that's true. Like Leonard Fournette and Darius Geis, right? And Sony Michel and Nick Chubb, right? Now Dylan is sitting there like, hey, I might be the best running back in the SEC, and people telling you, get in the fourth round, right? and I'm just sitting there at Dylan Sampson. I'm like, you know what, young man, go ahead and make yourself a household name. Right, make yourself a household name tomorrow. At the end of the day, go in there, roll into Georgia, leave out of there with 150, right, and be like, you know what? Maybe this guy, even though he may have size limitations or something like that, like, this guy is talented. He just simply gets it, right? And I'm excited for him to be able to make some plays against Georgia and just see what he's able to do, because I think this is a good test. Because I think if people had to choose, if you talk about trenches, right, Georgia front seven versus Tennessee front seven, I think people would still choose Georgia's, right? Which, is appropriate at the end of the day. Go make some plays against a situation where you're outmanned, outnumbered, right? And go do some special things. And that's what I'm looking for, DP. Looking for Dylan Sampson to make some plays.
Yeah, I mean, like, on a season, Keith, like you said, he's the best SEC running back. 201 carries, 1,129 yards rushing. He's averaging over 5.5 yards per carry. He has 20 rushing touchdowns. He has 20 rushing touchdowns. Crazy. He has more rushing touchdowns than his quarterback has passing touchdowns. Nico Iamaleava only has 11 passing touchdowns on the season. So he is everything for this offense. And I agree with you, Keith. This is a moment. You're going into Athens, Georgia. You're going into into a house where the fan base is pissed off, right? Mm-hmm. You drop the game to Bama. You lose to Ole Miss, and you didn't feel like you should have lost to Ole Miss. Like, and one more loss knocks you. You're right now. I think I think they are top 10. I think they're 10th in the country right now. Georgia is, if I remember correctly. I think Georgia.
And I watched the college football playoff ranking show, and
I got to go back and watch it.
And they explained it to me, and I'm still kind of confused about the seeding because
the explanation didn't help anything.
Yeah, it was like, so because Boise, I believe Boise is ranked 13th, but because they're
Georgia's at 12. I'm sorry, Georgia's at 12.
Yeah,
11 or 12. Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, it was kind of, but somewhere in that range. And basically, your point is still right that they lose one more game, they out. Like it's hard to make a case, especially with the way that they look. Right, it's not like I think and when I was watching college football playoff rankings, I understood this statistic. They said that I think Ole Miss has 2 combined losses where it's less than 6 points, and they've led the entire game except for the last play of the game. That's insane. The only other teams that have that statistic to where they've led as much as Ole Miss has led is 2 undefeated teams. It's Indiana and it's one other undefeated team. So it's not like it's Ole Miss, right, to where you're saying like, hey, they have 2 losses, but they're playing fairly solid football. Like with Georgia, you like, This don't look good, and it ain't
No,
even when they win. It don't look good,
it don't
right?
look good.
So, I'm with you, DP. That they like Georgia has to turn it around. But yeah, Dylan Sampson, I'm looking for him. I know you're looking for Mykel Williams, but DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing, man. And coming up next, we're gonna talk about those second tier prospects because we have some more ranked on ranked matchups, right? That can dictate a lot of stuff. So coming up next, we talk about second tier prospects.
With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month, when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer on 3-month plan only. Speeds slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch or an urge in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same exact page where you placed your bets. All you need to do is just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 back in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, you'll get started with $150 back in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, that is FanDuel.com to join today. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports book partner of the NFL. Second tier prospects to watch in week 12. Keith, I have to go to one of our guys, Jaden Higgins. Last week, Iowa State, who walked into that Kansas matchup, they were undefeated and they lost that game. Kansas came to play big time game for them. Jaden Higgins, 7 catches, 88 yards. They put he didn't have much success against we know about Kobe Bryant, but their second corner, Melo Dotson, had an outstanding game. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. 0 catches allowed, 3 targets, and he had a pick 6. The pick 6 came while he was covering Jaden Higgins. He played Jaden Higgins very well. And I think for me in this game, again, in a receiving class where it's a lot of smoke still, going up against Cincinnati, 8 p.m. Eastern time, game's on Fox, so it's a prime time type of game. And I believe Iowa State, they're 3rd in the Big 12. They're 7-2. They weren't undefeated. They lost back-to-back games. I'm sorry. They lost to Texas Tech by 1 point the week before, and then they lost to Kansas 45-36. So they've dropped in the standings, in the rankings right now, and they're 3rd in the Big 12. I think with Jaden Higgins going up against Cincinnati, this is an opportunity to go back out because him and Jalen Noel, it's like almost that LeBron D Wade back in Miami, like, all right, It's your turn. Now it's my turn. Like, I would like to see both of them going off in the same game. You know what I mean? Both of them have 100, but it's like, nah, you get 150. I'll take the 80 on this one, But for me, Jaden Higgins, 6'4", 215, a big body receiver that just runs good routes, can sink his hips, drive out of the catch point, but then also he could dominate the catch point because of that catch radius and everything. I think this is an opportunity for him to go out here and dominate the Cincinnati Bearcats defense and that secondary, have a big time game, and just continue to elevate his stock. Because I feel like this, Keith, I've said it multiple times. I don't feel like people are really scouting this class thoroughly. I don't think it's going to happen until college football, until we get to January.
You know why, DP? And this is interesting conversation, right? It's kind of a little bit different, but we'll take it there. I think it's because there's not as much top end obvious talent that in order to really scout this class, you're gonna have to put the work in. right?
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's not like, oh, who's the best corner? Derek Stingley. Duh. Right? Like, it's not, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know,
Yeah.
like that type of conversation. It's not that. So it's like, oh, especially when you talk about the wide receivers, right? Like, people gonna have to actually take their time and sit down and do it. And I think that's why I'm excited.
These draft rankings are going to be all
Uh,
over the place.
Yeah, they're gonna be all over the place, and you're gonna be able to see who's actually doing the work and who's not, right? Because it's not something that's gonna be able to easily pull. And like we said, like even when it comes down to the mock drafts and stuff, right? You're doing the mock drafts. Once you get to pick 20, all bets are off, right? Like people are just pulling, like his name's coming from everywhere, and it because you just don't know. And I think that's what's gonna make this fun, DP, and that's how I look at it. I like the Jalen, not Jaden Higgins. I was about to say Jalen Noel. I like the Jaden Higgins call out. I'm gonna go with another wide receiver, DP. And for some of what you said, for some of what I just said, and what it could be, and I'm going wide receiver from LSU, Kyron Lacy. Because I think he started off hot. I think he's had good games, right? But he has to put on some more dominant performances, right? To where he becomes the headliner of this LSU offense, or he's on the same pedestal with how people talk about Garrett Nussmeier, right? As far as like, man, this dude's a game changer. Because I think people are watching him, and we have to look at it from this, that there's tiers to this, right? There's a difference between being a guy that's flying under the radar, and then people say, I like you, and then like now you're on their radar for a fourth, third round grade. And then that next tier of, no, this guy can ball, I would take him in the second round, back into the first, right? I think Kyron right now is in that tier of be a solid little third, fourth round player, right? Like he's flying on the radar, but he's making plays. But how do you elevate yourself into that? Now, in this draft class, where it's a top 3 wide receivers, and then it's a fall off, I can go second round. Like, and I think he has the opportunity, talking about finish strong. So I'm looking at Kyron Lacy, wide receiver from LSU.
No, I like that. Good one of the better, probably one of the better route runners in this receiving
savvy.
class.
I think the word is savvy. And you know who he reminds me of? And I think this guy is still going to play really good football. I don't know exactly what the numbers are. But you remember, I really liked Jalen McMillan last year from Washington. And they have that same type of tempo and savviness to their route running. They have the same type.
No, I like that. I like that a lot. And just his approach. He has a professional approach to beating defensive backs, right? You know, you see so many times in college football, guys it's speed if you're fast, it's power and strength if you're a big body guy. He's like, he's savvy. It's veteran-esque, like he knows how to attack leverages and move guys off the spot. He has really good footwork. He's quick in and out of his cuts. Like, I really like what Kyron Lacy brings to the table. Keith, I'm going to Nebraska. Nebraska faces off with USC this weekend, and I don't know if people paid attention. Last week, Pete Thamel did a piece on ESPN. Miller Moss has been benched. Miller Moss has been benched, and we know that they're starting I think he transferred from, I think maybe Texas Tech or a Big 12 school. I think he's like a redshirt freshman and everything, more mobile young man, and everything like that. So when you look at it, like, all right, what are we gonna expect? What do you expect the USC's offense at home to be? Probably run first and getting, Woody Marks going. I'm looking at Ty Robinson, the 6'6", 310-pound, versatile defensive lineman for Nebraska. He plays some end. He plays the 1, the 2, the 3, the 3 tech, stuff like that. He moves all around that defensive front. 18 pressures on the season, 3 batted passes. Like, yeah, he's a big body guy. 4 QB hits. He has 4 sacks. And you want to just see him be. He's good against the run. You're gonna need to stop Jaquavis, Woody Marks. You got to stop that run game. You want to get back there to the young, to the young redshirt freshman quarterback who's in his first start going into week 12 of the college football season. You got to stop the run first. I expect Lincoln Riley to get the run game going and try to lean on Woody Marks, get that run game going, get the play action pass going. Again, this is also an athletic young man. I think he's a dual threat kid. So you got to be prepared. Once you do get in the backfield, he can get out of trouble too. So you got to be controlled in your chaotic approach to try and sack him. So for me, Keith, I just look at it from the aspect of Ty Robinson, because at the end of the day, like we always talk about this, football, it's a skill game, stuff like that. Sometimes it's such an eye test when you walk into a room. Can you physically command it without even saying the word? Ty Robinson is one of those guys. He is a big physical body type with long arms. He's a decent athlete. And you think about teams wanting that type of guy who can push the pocket vertically and, against the pass, but also set leverage against the run. This is an opportunity for him to just kind of stack some weeks and consistently showcase what he's able to do. Past 2 weeks, he's graded out well. He's played well. Ohio State, UCLA, he had a sack. He had 3 hurries and pressures against UCLA last week. In week 10, last time they played. I think they're coming off of a bye. All right, you've had kind of 2 weeks to rest. Let's go ahead and dominate this game in the trenches. And they have, I think USC has one of the more underrated interior offensive linemen. I think he's either center or guard. I think it's Mannheim or something like that. Like Mannheim, you got to be able to win your matchup.
If you're Ty Robinson. You're talking about the center. Yep. That could be an underrated matchup, DP, that we don't, it's not talked about, right? But it's an NFL matchup, right? At the end of the day, both of those guys will be playing on Sunday. But DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing, man. And let's head to those sleeper prospects. Yes, DP's going to pull out the alarm clock, wake a couple people up, man. Which guys to look out for? We're going to talk about that coming up next.
Time is our most precious commodity. So don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Well, our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, 40 FREE free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning and the history of the Constitution, Introduction to Free Market Economics, and a brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, socialism, and communism. All of Hillsdale courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or you can simply just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. Again, that's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. Hillsdale.edu/lockedon. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Time to wake up, guys. You heard the alarm clock. You know what we're talking about. We're talking about the sleepers in college football for the 2025 NFL Draft class. And Keith, this young man is, I believe he's a true freshman. I mean, not true freshman, true junior. For San Diego State, 6'2", 245-pound edge rusher, Trey White. This young man on the season has 11 and a half to 12 sacks. He's got 6 QB hits on the season, 15 plus pressures. He has been getting after it and causing chaos for opposing quarterbacks. And he plays for San Diego State, so a lot of people really not tapped into what he's able to do. His pass rush win rate, when they are in true drop back sets, and that's the one that always matters the most to me, when there's no play action, there's no RPO, it's just straight drop back, he has close to a 20% pass rush win rate. When the quarterback has to drop back and throw the ball, he has eight of his 12 sacks, 8 of his sacks, 5 QB hits, 11 hurries, all have come on true drop back pass sets. And you think about just being one of those stand-up, like odd front edge rushers on the end as an outside linebacker. He's athletic, quick first step. He can get around the corner of the tackles. This guy, he plays with a great motor to get double-digit sacks in college football. And for nobody to say to even utter your name is crazy. This young man is a sleeper. I don't know if he declares, but he has a chance to really go out here, just consistently make a name for himself, and continue to put up great numbers, could put up great stats to make people have to look at it and say, hey, man, because he's going up against UNLV. And one thing we know about that Brendan Marion offense, it's going to put up points. Yep. You got to get back there to that quarterback, right? They're going to give you a lot of different looks, 2 running backs side by side in the backfield. You might get 3 running backs back there side by side in the backfield in that go-go offense. Can you disrupt them in the run game? And can you get after the quarterback and stop them from letting Ricky White go ahead and dominate your secondary?
Well, DP, I'll say this: we don't know if he's going to declare, right? And if he don't declare, that transfer reporter gonna have something to say, right? That transfer
NIL money gonna be popping for him.
It's gonna have something to say. DP, I'm gonna go with more pass catchers, man. And I have a trio of guys that I want to discuss real quick. First of all, Colorado is going against Utah, right? So I want to talk about wide receiver Will Shepherd, right? Another big bodied guy, 6'3", 200 pounds. And I want, want to highlight him because he's had some ups and downs, right? Like had some really high moments. Be like, hey, this guy can be a top 100 prospect. And then there's just been some kind of lapses in concentration, right? That led to some kind of key drops. So that's one guy. Then I flip it to the other side, DP, of this matchup, and I look at Utah, and I look at Brent Keithy, right? A guy that we've been talking about for quite a few years now. And then I look at wide receiver Dorian Singer, a player that was at Arizona, went to USC. Now he's at Utah. He's having a solid season. I think he's at 600, close to 700 yards receiving at Utah, and that's them without having a formidable quarterback. But can he be a player that rises up draft boards, right? Once you're able to put him in an isolated situation, is he a Shrine Bowl or a Senior Bowl guy? He comes, performs well because he has good movement skills, DP. And he was highly productive a few years ago. And I think I look at him and say, hey, this guy can ball. And then the last one is Matthew Golden, who I believe is a true junior. The transfer from Houston to Texas. Middle of the season, just kind of weird, right? He started off with 3 touchdowns in the first 2 games, and then the middle of the season was literally no touchdowns. And then the past 2 games, he has 3 touchdowns again, right? So it's a high and low type situation as far as his target share, I guess. But those 3 wide receivers, DP, talking about under the radar guys, and hey, can they make plays and make a difference? I think they can, but they also can elevate their draft stock too if they perform well.
No, I like those call-outs, Keith. I'm gonna go back to the Tennessee matchup with Georgia, and we talked about Dylan Sampson. You know, I mean, him being the catalyst for that offense. Well, whenever they are able to throw the ball and then get those isolated, schemed up, deep throws down the field, is Dante Thornton Jr. 6'5", 215. Last week, week 11 against Mississippi State, 5 targets, 3 catches, 104 yards receiving, and the touchdown. And I believe he had a big, long play down the field. Yeah, he had a 73-yard. I think that was a touchdown play. 73-yard touchdown play. He's good in contested catches. He has the body type and physical frame for it, but he showcases long speed as well. And it's just the fact this isn't the normal Tennessee offense where they're like what we saw with Hendon Hooker, where it was like, man, like they're throwing it all over the yard. Like they're leaning on that run game this year, which I'm fine with. But I think if Georgia wants to load that box and try to stop Dylan Sampson, I think if you can get the one-on-one, those DBs on the outside for Georgia, I'll be honest with you, this is the first time and since Kirby Smart's been there that I can recall not knowing like the DBs, the cornerbacks, right? And not saying, they got a first-round caliber guy. They got a second-round caliber guy. These guys are susceptible to getting beat. And I think Dante Thornton Jr., 6'5", 215, deep speed, build-up speed type of guy, but also can win at the catch point with his leaping ability and body control. I think if you can get that singled up, you get single high, you get one-on-one, I think Nico Iamaleava, if he's healthy and playing, this is a situation, play action that thing, and we know he's got immense arm talent. He's got one of the better arms in college football. He can sling it. Man, throw that ball down the field, give your big body guy a chance. I think that this could be a fruitful situation for him because, again, it's the wide receiver situation just open, man. Go out there, just stack days, make plays, and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, I like that, DP. I like that call out, especially like you said, going against Georgia's defensive secondary, right? I'm going to look at this ranked matchup, DP, Missouri versus South Carolina, and I'm going to go with edge rusher Kyle Kennard. A guy that's been has been playing really well, and they're going against a ranked Missouri. So you beat a ranked Missouri, I think they're sitting at like 2021 or something like that. That puts you that much closer to potentially college football playoffs somehow, right? And you think about how they've had gut-wrenching losses against what is Alabama and LSU, right? But they've been able to still, you still want to kind of finish strong. And while they may have had the toughest schedule in the entire in college football period, right? Because you don't even add teams like Missouri to this. They had
Ole Miss, they had a Texas A&M that they blew out. They had a real crazy schedule.
Yeah, they did. That's what I said. Like if you really think about it, and it's still a ranked Missouri team that they have to play. So that's 5 teams right there. And I don't think a lot of teams, especially with these conferences getting bigger, right, that it's taking away some other key matchups also. So South Carolina, I'm looking at Kyle Kennard. I'm looking at the TJ Sanders, right? I'm looking at that defensive front because if you're able to stymie that, right, and you're talking about that Brady Cook, Luther Burden, it starts in the trenches, right? If Brady Cook don't have the time and opportunity, none of that even gets going, and you can walk out of there with another win.
No, that's a big time call out, Keith, because also if you can speed Brady Cook up and you got Luther Burden, who's going to probably play, more likely play in the slot most of the time. You got Nick Manwari, the safety that does it all for him in that secondary.
Oh, yeah. That's a fun matchup to watch those two because Luther's going to be in the slot.
And you see, you get that matchup with those two. And then like you talked about with South Carolina, we're going to see how the college football playoffs committee, we thought going to 12 teams was really going to like make it a lot easier. It's not, because South Carolina beats Missouri, who's ranked 23rd. Then they got at the end of the season, you know, they always play Clemson. Right now, Clemson's ranked 20th, and that's a road game. Actually, that's a game I'm actually trying to go to, and everything too. That's right after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, they by far had the toughest schedule in college football. I forgot about.
If you knock off both Missouri and Clemson, like how do you tell South Carolina? Like how do you not like right now? Where's South Carolina ranked at? They are 21. If they finish off the season undefeated, knock off two top 25 teams after beating a team that they right now, Texas A&M is ranked 10th in the nation. They blew Texas A&M out. Like I just don't foresee a way unless it's just more undefeated teams, which I don't know how many more are there right now. I don't know how you keep them outside of the top 12. Like that's a fringe top 12 playoff team that if South Carolina makes it to the playoff, man, it's the state gonna be going crazy. That's the only thing I can tell you. The state's gonna be going crazy down
DP, that is a crazy schedule. Like just to think about that, you had LSU, Bama, Ole Miss, Missouri, Clemson, right? Like that's Texas A&M. That's a crazy schedule. I think that schedule is probably by far the most difficult schedule in college football when you look at it week in and week out. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at the talent code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. Like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everydayers. Guys, college football, NFL football this weekend. Enjoy the weekend because you know Coach K, Coach DP will be back on Monday with the game balls. We're going to have our new updated top 10 quarterback ranking, see who's in, who's out, and of course, money makers and bag fumblers. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.